Hello, Pat in the cockpit. Uh, we're going to do some an unboxing today on some new equipment that we received from Flight Illusions in the Netherlands. They make really nice gauges for simulators, and most of our gauges, all of our gauges in our sim, are made by Flight Illusions. And bought, we purchased some new standby gauges and a brake pressure gauge. A buddy out in Florida, Mike, Swan Productions. You might have seen some of his YouTubes. He does a lot of them. He's also got a full set that he's working on. So we bought them about the same time. So let me swing the camera around so you don't have to look at my mug. You can look at the in the plane here, and I'll manually focus it. Bear with me 1 second. Let me just get this set up here. Let me get it zoomed in where I want it. I think that should do it right about there. And I'm going to zoom it in on the sim. And I'm doing a manual focus so you don't get autofocus on my knees like last time. Okay, so the other camera in the corner is a webcam so you can see me. So we're going to replace the standby gauges. We have a RMI and a standby gauge for altitude, pitch, barometric pressure, and a yaw damper there. And also a brake pressure gauge we're going to install. Previously, in the Flight Deck Solutions solution, they have the ECAS screen that goes all the way across here, and this screen in this position and this position has two virtual displays. This would be the RMI, and this would be the standby gauge. And using the software, you just take the virtual device and stick it behind there, and it works fine. We want to get real gauges. So we're going to replace this. Also, the brake pressure gauge over here is strictly a photorealistic piece of paper with some light behind it. We're going to put an actual gauge in there which shows brake pressure. So to start with, let's go ahead and remove the old plate. And to do that, of course, I need a screwdriver, which isn't in the plane. Bear with me. Originally, we were very concerned about these gauges from Flight Illusions fitting, and we couldn't be sure, so we ended up taking our plate out and sending it to the Netherlands, and they returned it with new gauges installed. Got a little problem with the fit up, but we're going to show you that. So we're going to start by taking this plate out here. We don't actually, before we do that, I've got these old ones just sitting in here. I'm going to remove them. Let me just pull these off. There's no nuts on the other side right now. And we're going to keep the screws. This metal plate has this Cat 3, so we'll take that off and mount it somewhere else. And this is just a plastic bezel. And previously there was a monitor behind there. Well, there wasn't a monitor, there was a larger monitor. And it came all the way across. So this is the bezel. And then there's the RMI, radio magnetic indicator. And keep the screws. So these are the three old parts. Probably give them to Brady. And so let's go ahead and take the plate out. Got all the screws out except for one. We'll just remove that one screw. And we'll remove the plate. So here's the aluminum plate with the 3 gauges, and this is the yaw damper, which we had previously and we've removed. Back here, you'll see some dangling. Let me see if this is zoomed in and focused where I want it. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Flight Illusion's system works on a little circuit board that's up underneath here, and it's daisy chained. And it goes to their little G-step program, which talks to X-plane, and it all hooks up with these ribbon cables. So from the little board that's up underneath the kickboard, it goes to the Flight Illusion's clock, and from here it daisy chains to all four of these gauges, daisy chains to the flaps, to the new brakes, and over to the first officer's clock, and then up to the wet compass. There's 4 ports on their little circuit board, and each port can handle 16 devices. So I also have a cable that runs up top and does all the gauges up top. It's an interesting way to do things. It works really good. They make a really good product. So I sent this plate to the Netherlands, and they made me another plate to fit their equipment. So let's look at that. This came in yesterday. I've opened the box up and inspected it and did a couple things to it, but we'll pull it out and look at it first. So they shipped it on Friday, and it got here yesterday. So it was 3 days from the Netherlands through customs to LA, down to the plane here in San Diego. So it's actually a gorgeous device. So this is a couple of pounds. It's absolutely fabulously beautiful. The yaw damper, which I've already put in, this is the one I had previously. This is the artificial horizon. This is a standby. It's got an altimeter with a digital readout, and the last like 39,376 would be in the readout. You can't see it, it's not on. And then the dial is the last 376 feet, so 376, the dial would move down to here. And it's got millibars over here and inches of mercury over here, and an indicated airspeed here as a standby gauge. Then we have a RMI indicator for ADF, 2 ADFs, or 2 VORs with a moving compass. And let's see if you can see what the back looks like here. So this is the ribbon cable that goes down to the little I/O board right here. Here's the ribbon cable, and it goes to this one, which jumpers over. It's all one cable, and they just added new connectors on it down to this middle one, to the standby gauge, and then down to the RMI down here. Up here is the yaw damper, and that'll be this ribbon cable, and then we'll jump it over to the next device. It's got a little parallel in and out. So hopefully, let me see if I can focus in here and you can see the quality of this thing. Let me get the focus going here. Bear with me. The device is amazing. The gearing, the little PC mounted stepper motors, the gearing. So on the artificial horizon, get 2 plates. One rotates this way and one spins. And so it indicates artificial horizon. The RMI has a moving compass and 2 moving needles. So there's multiple motors in here and moving dials. It's all I can compare it to is a very well built watch. This adjustment here adjusts the center line, so where you look at it, I can move it up and down, and I can adjust the barrow independently of the plane here, and then turn the RMIs on and off here. So let's go ahead and focus back on the over here. Hopefully I get my focus good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set this in here. Actually, before we do that, let's show you what else came in the box. We received a whole bunch of little daisy chain. What are they called? There's a name for these. What type of cables? It slipped my mind. These little ribbon cables. They got a specific name. Anyway, a whole bunch of those. And Here's the brake pressure gauge. It also is a, let's see if we can focus in on this one and look at it. It's also a very good looking gauge. It actually moves. It's got a little motor in there. It has a little ribbon cables to plug in there. Okay. That will be mounted over here to replace that one. There's a little bit of work there. That one is offset, so it's too close down to the lights. So I have to put this plate on it and cut the hole bigger. We're going to do that later, and that's going to sit over here. It's got a little bezel. And that's going to be part of our little project today. So let's put all this back in here. Also got some little screws, little self-tapper screws that came in. So we're going to go ahead and install this. It's all set to go. It's all wired up. All I have to do is hook the yaw damper up and go around the back and plug this in. So first thing I'm going to do is hook up the yaw damper. And to do that, I'll just set this right here. And the most important thing to remember when using Flight Illusions is the power to the I/O board can't be on when you plug them in or unplug them. You can damage them. So I've got my AC plug laying down here on the floor, so I know it's disconnected. So let's go ahead and just plug this one into here. They're keyed. So pretty straightforward. Plug that one into there. And then plug this one into here. Just like that. Okay, and that's going to go around the back. Of course, I need a third hand. Let me take this rubber band off. So I know I get back there and I won't be able to take the rubber band off. There we go. There we go. It's right there. Okay. So we're going to take this. Unfortunately, when we got this, I'll explain it to you when I get this in. I'm just going to put that right there and that right there. Okay. So I sent the plate to Flight Illusions and asked them to build me a plate with their hardware on a plate that would have these dimensions. And they sent a plate that was perfect, except the distance between the holes was about 1 millimeter off, just slightly on 2 of the holes. 1 millimeter doesn't sound like a lot, but so I had to end up drilling out these mounting holes by I don't know, a 32nd of an inch, a 16th of an inch, a little larger. You won't be able to see because the screw heads all cover it, so that was kind of disappointing. But you know, all in all, shit happens. Okay, so I'm going to get my screws. We're going to install the screws now. Try not to drop them. Already dropped them 16 times. And we'll put the first one in right down here. You can't see the hole. Let's come up here and do it. Okay, there's the first. Okay, there's the first one. And the second. And I'm presuming this is the last time I'll have to do this. I take that back. Got to there we go. That one started. I've got to replace that monitor. It's really wearing out. It's 7 years old and it's getting a little blurry, so I ordered a new one. When it comes in, these gauges will have to come back out. Okay, now I can put this one in here, like so, and another one here, like so. And then we got one up top, way up yonder. And I had to get in here and start this one by hand. It's way up top. Doesn't want to start. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to tighten these down now. After I get this monitor replaced, I'll come in here with a little touch-up paint and touch up the paint a little bit. Of course, the little bits of the little scrapes on the paint make it look realistic, like it's been flown for a while, which it has. And okay, I'll leave that there. So that's in there. It's not going anywhere. I'm going to walk around back and plug in the I/O cable and see if we can power this up. I'll be right back. Actually, I'm going to pause the recording here just for a second. And where's the pause button? Pause. Where's the pause button? Okay, unpaused. I went around the front of the sim and took the ribbon cable and plugged it into the I/O board. So when we fire up this display, let me make sure I'm zoomed in here and focused. This all works. You should hear maybe the noise of the gauges. You'll see some of them light up, but mainly we're looking for these three. They'll all go into a self-test mode. If you see smoke, call the fire department. Okay, let's give it a try. Here goes. Oh, that should have come on. Why didn't it? Houston, we have a problem. Doo-ba-doo-boo-boo. What's going on here? That should have come on. Okay, let me go see if it's plugged in. Well, thank goodness for pause buttons. Just a second ago, which was 2 hours ago, I went to plug in the new gauges and nothing. Of course, I paused the recording and trying to figure out what's going on and start to dig into it. Come to find out the little I/O board that runs all my gauges had blown a fuse. There's two 2-amp fuses in there, little glass fuse. Of course, I don't have a spare. Go down to a hardware store, nah, and I'm starting to panic. Eventually, what I did was to get a regular 2-amp glass fuse down at the hardware store. Luckily, we got one close enough I can ride my bike down there. Glass fuse, and got a little inline fuse holder with some clips, and it's all dangling down here underneath the knee board, the whole little circuit board, and got my voltmeter out and some clips and clipped in a fuse holder and put a 2-amp fuse in there. There's 2 fuses. Put it all back together, except I didn't hook anything up, just the power supply. It worked fine, and I hooked up one gauge at a time. And by the end, it looks like everything's working now. So, moral of the story: after 7 years, little 2-amp glass fuses can wear out. That's what I'm hoping. So we're back to where we were when I paused just a minute ago, which was 2 hours ago for me. So what I'm going to do is plug in the gauge power supply and all the gauges, the Flight Illusions clocks, all these gauges, ones in the overhead, everything will start ticking. What I want you to focus on these new gauges is you'll see these three come alive, and you'll see them go through a little self-test program. They'll spin and tick, and especially the Horizon one, it really does some fun things. So here goes. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay. I don't know if you can hear it ticking and spinning and doing all types of fun things. Okay, that's what it's supposed to do. All the gauges up top are working, so we're good. What I'm going to do now is I've got a little program called G-Step. I'm going to fire it up here on the server computer over here, and we're going to test these gauges. So let me start this little G-Step program right there, and go to configure. And the first thing I'm going to do is do let's do the top gauge, which is when I first started this up in a G-Step program by Flight Illusions, it sees a gauge, but it doesn't know what it is, so I have to go assign it. So the next step is to make sure it works and then see if it'll work in X-plane. So the first thing I'm going to do is the radio magnetic indicator. It's the bottom one. RMI. And it's right there, and it's number 130. And we have a little test, so we're going to spin the card to start with. Let's see. And we'll get the left needle moving. Oops. Hold on. Oh, my mistake. We're doing the middle one first, which is the standby gauge. So we're going to test the altimeter gauge, and we're going to move it. And you can see the digits. It's 9,050 feet. And I want to run it up to a much higher value, 38,000 feet. So it's 26,526. So what it's showing here is 26,526 in the readout, and then the one that goes around is the last three digits, and it's 526 feet. That works good. So we have some baro temperatures here. Let's see if we can adjust those. That didn't work. Well, I just set it to 30 and it read 30. Okay, and there's the millibar version of the 1016. So that worked. Let's try 29. And right, 29. That's working. And let's do airspeed. Backlighting is on. I don't know why the airspeed is not working. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Attitude indicator. Pitch. Okay, you can see the the that's the roll. I just went upside down. Let me level it, and you can see it spinning. And let's do the pitch. Pitch and roll at the same time. There, we're pitching and rolling. And you can see the pitch and roll. I'm going to go to level on both of them. And you can see it moving around. Let's try the RMI now. Let's try that one. I just turned the flags on. You can see the 3 flags, the yellow flags. They just turned yellow. I'm going to turn them off. The right one I'm going to turn off right now. The right flag just went off. Here's the left flag. And here's the middle, the upper flag, the heading flag. It went off. Let's see if we can spin the gauge. The right needle, and it's spinning. Very nice. The left needle, it's moving. And the compass card. Let's move the compass card. And you can see the compass card move. So using the G-step test program, I can talk to all the gauges. The last thing I want to do, let's stop that and close that. Exit that. Let's start X-plane and see if we can get the gauges to move. Okay. X-plane is loading up. I don't think I have my ZHSI, my glass screen computer running right now. Hold on. Okay, just fired up the ZHSI screen. That'll take just a second while X-plane loads. I think the only thing that's going to work is the standby gauge here. We'll just give it a try. And I'm looking over here to the left at the server screen to see if X-plane. There we go, loading up, and I'm going to start start ZHSI. Oh, I can't because I don't have any of the other computers running. Doh. Get 3 more computers to turn on. We fired up all 5 computers. X-plane should. Let's get these screens alive. Your screens are alive. Okay. Now I can get to my mouse. Okay. Come over here. I'm going to start the CDU program. Got 2 CDU programs to start. Oops. One's got to close first. Reopen it. That's good. And then we'll start the ZHSI program right there. And we'll go to our put power in the plane. Ooh, I have no idea where the plane's located. Bear with Let's see if we can figure out where the plane's located. I have no idea. Um, I got ground power. Okay, we should be able to fire up the screens. There we go. Okay, and I want to show you. Bear with me 1 second. Let's align the IRSs. Oh, I got to start. There's a billion programs to start here. This thing working. Okay. And start the G-step program. Got 2 errors on the G-step program we got to figure out. Okay. So get the FMC. I mean the IRS is aligned. Just put in the position we're at. There. I have no idea where the plane's even located right now. I just wanted to show you. So using the ZHSI program, I can put some virtual standby gauges. You can see them right down here. There's the RMI and the standby gauge. Those are the ones that used to be here when we had the virtual screen. We'd move these two. Let me see if you can see this in the stream. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. Yeah, you can see them. Okay. This RMI and that standby gauge were actually located here and here. Now at Zibo mod, I've turned on the analog standby gauges, and they look just like these. So I can use those to compare to these when I'm doing my testing. More importantly, let's go ahead and just see if the standby gauge is working. Let's minimize that, and we're just gonna. So what I'm doing up here is I'm changing my baro setting, and you can see it's changing my altitude and it's changing my millibars. So if I look down here in the PFD, it says 30.4 inches, and I've got it linked together so my captain side controls the first officer side, because if I don't have a first officer side there, I don't want to reach across and adjust his. So in the electronic flight bag for Zibo mod, I set it so the captain side adjusts it. So if I set it for 30, let's go to 3010, and let's see where I'm located. I'm gonna go look. It tells me that we're at Portland, and if I look at my little ATIS program, which is called ATIS app for Portland, it has a barometric pressure of 30.12 right now in the real world. So if I dial in 3012 here, it should read the actual altitude of the airport, and it's 60 feet. That's perfect. And if I know the altitude, I can dial in the altitude, and it should give me the true barometric pressure for the current conditions. So without flying the plane, I can see my barometric pressures are working, my altitude's working. I haven't been able to get the, you can see right, oops, that's locked up. Wonder why. Why is that locked up? Very interesting. Okay, we're not gonna go there tonight. Important thing is I know that my standby gauge is working. I won't be able to tell if my standby pitch and roll axis indicators working until I'm flying the plane, because I'm sitting here on the tarmac, and for some reason, oh, I know why. Here, resume flight. Okay, so I can turn on my RMI, my VORs down here in the pedestal for 116.6, which is the VOR at somewhere really close to port. Let's look that up. We can look that up on NavRav charts. Okay, Portland. 116.6 is battleground, okay? And I can actually hear them right there. And on my virtual VOR, I can tune to each one of them. And it's pointing to it, and the flag comes on and off. I can see it in the virtual one, but it's not working on the new one. So that tells me that the coding for that device in the Flight Illusions GStep program doesn't match X-Plane. It needs to be looked at. But important thing is it works. So we're going to call this 100% success. It's in there. Let's see if I can get the yaw damper to operate. Let me go to the GStep program. I don't even know if there's a data ref for a yaw damper in ZeboMod. Go to configuration on the GStep program, and it's let's see. Right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 gauges. And this one here is I think it's the one that's called unknown. Let's see if I can get the needle to move. No, I can't. I have no idea what this we'll have to work on the yaw damper. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next thing now, the brake pressure gauge. So we're going to show you how I'm going to install it. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to actually connect to it, but so let me move my cameras around. And you see that's working. No, it's not. Okay, it's working. The standby gauge is working. Now, if I go into the GStep program and electronic flight bag, if I tell the electronic flight bag that I don't want to control the standby gauge with the captain's side, and I want to do it by itself, I've noticed that the only thing that the barrel control does is change the altitude. It doesn't change the millibars or the inches. I got to figure that out. But this control here will change the altitude reading when I don't have the electronic flight bag telling it to control the standby gauge by the captain's side. And we don't know what to fix until we find out what's wrong. So that's not bad for firing it up for the first time. We're going to move over here to the other side now. Let me tilt my camera. I can see it from over there. We should be good. I'll tilt it over. Okay, I'm going over there. I'm going to take my headset off. Fortunately, all you can see is my back now. That's the brakes. So what I'm dealing with now is this up here. So I think I can just move this camera over a little bit. We're going to work on, let me also check the focus. Okay, got the screwdriver. And this panel here is going to have to come out. And previously I've gone ahead and done a little prep work in anticipation of this video. And I've disconnected the connections on the back of these Corey lights and these switches to take this panel out, because that brake pressure gauge is going to come out. So all we have left, I think, is one screw up here. There's actually 8 of them. Let me pop this screw out right there. I got that screw out. Set that there, and we're going to lift this panel out. We got the other 7 taken out, and we've disconnected the wiring back there. So here's the wiring. That goes on to these connectors. So we have this little AFSD panel, and it's got 2 connectors, and we got some lights down here, Corey lights. We have these 2 switches, and they have connectors here. All these go down to the I/O board. So we've removed this plate, and you can see this gauge is just a dummy gauge. It's there's absolutely nothing there. And you can, I don't know if you can see it on that one. So we're going to take this little gauge off right now. And to do that, I need a nut driver and a, ouch. I need a nut driver and a screwdriver. Stand by. Not ready for prime time. I've moved the camera over to the other side, so I can focus on the MIP. Okay, so to take this pressure gauge off, you're going to need a nut driver on the back side, approximately that size. Bingo. And I'll set these here, and we'll need a screwdriver and a nut driver. Let me just take this off here. You can see us taking the nut driver and the screwdriver and taking this panel off. Not off, or almost off. And there's the second one. Oops, no, it's this one here. Get that one off. Okay. Let's pull this off. and keep all these parts together because we're not going to need these anymore. These will be put into storage for somebody else or some other project. Just the person who needs this stuff. My buddy Brady up in Denver. So here's the little fake gauge. And now we have a hole in the wrong place. It's too low for the gauge. Let me grab the gauge and we will talk about that. So the problem becomes, not really a problem, we have a solution for it. Here is the flight illusions gauges, right here, right there. And unfortunately, the size of it runs into these. If I were to lay it right here, you can see it doesn't fit. Put it right here. So it's actually installed in there. Ooh, that might be a problem. It's going to be a tight fit. I can sand that down. Anyway, there's the gauge right there. And you see the black line right there? That's the center of the holes right here, which unfortunately I think might butt up against. I might have to shave this plastic down right here a little bit. So the gauge sits right in here like that. The problem is you can see it doesn't line up with the hole. It's no bueno. That's not good. So Flight Deck Solutions, when they made their hole, didn't have any love with Flight Illusions. So what I'm going to do is I asked Flight Illusions to make me this plate. And this plate I'm going to put right here, like that. Right like that. I'm going to put it right there. And you can see in here there's extra metal. I'm going to mark that with a Sharpie. And I'm going to take my half round bastard file and file that down so that hole is now up here. And then I'll put my gauge behind it. And the gauge, and I'll drill these holes, those 4 holes, and my gauge will fit in there. And it should line up right there. Except that is not good. That needs to go over slightly. I'll need to move this hole. The problem is this piece of plastic right here. This piece of plastic has got to be shaved down. This is plastic. What I'll do is I'll just take the Dremel and I'll just sand it down a little. That way this plate, actually this plate can't go any farther more this way because it hits here. So it has to go there. The problem is this gauge wants to be farther to the left. Actually, no, it doesn't. It actually looks pretty good right there. So you can see right there the metal that's got to come away. It actually looks pretty darn good. Oh no, it's too far, yeah. it's too far. You can see right there, it's too far to the left, too far that way. So I've got to move it this way, about the width of this plastic right here. So I'll cut that plastic down a little bit, and it's going to end up looking sort of like that. So I can't, this metal can't be moved any more farther this way because of this. So I could lay this right there and mark this now. But more importantly, does it clear this edge? And it does. I can see that. That edge is right there. Because this gauge sits right on top of this, like this. Like that. That's what the gauge wants to look like when it's done. Just like that. And you can see it's a perfect fit all the way around. So this is a good representation of where this is going to be if I lay this right here. If I lay it right there and I mark this metal and cut that metal away, then that hole is going to be right here, and I put the gauge on the other side, and it's not going to go any farther than here, and there's a line that goes between this hole and this hole on the back side. You can see it. You can see that line, and that's this edge here, right there. So it all fits in there. The gauge, this has to move that way. This, which represents the width of the gauge, has to move that way about, what is that? 1/8 of an inch, which means I have to shave down this plastic. So I'll just take these plastic nuts off, pull this off, and I'll cut that down just a little bit. Move that way, cut this metal, put everything, drill the holes, voila. Obviously, that's not going to happen right now because I have to measure 60 times and cut once. So that's kind of the plan right now. But what I do know is that this plate can't go any farther this way. So I can mark it now. I can actually mark this. I can mark this. I know where it needs to cut. Okay, and then we'll mark these holes here. And we'll pull this away. And you can see now what I have to cut. You can see the black line right there. That's how much metal's got to be cut away. And you can see our holes. There's going to be a hole there, a hole there, a hole there, and a hole there. And that's going to be the holes to mount the gauge on. Once I drill those, I can put this on the back side, and I'll know how far over I got to move this in this direction. How much this plastic's got to be shaved down. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and probably just cut these holes. There's nothing electronically back here. I'm going to pull this plate out. I'll pull this plate out. Actually, I can pull that plate off pretty much anytime I'm ready. This is pretty easy to do. Pull this plate off, pull this out. Get it out of the way so I can start sanding this. pretty sure that a half round bastard file will take care of that. Make that go away real fast. We're going to end up having a bigger hole here, but it's going to be covered by this plate. And then my gauge will be there. That's the plan. So I think we've accomplished everything we wanted to today. We've got our new standby gauges installed and powered up. We see the things that need to be looked at. So I'm going to fly the plane a little bit and see if the standby attitude works. And then also I'm going to do a little more research on the VOR, why it's not tracking with X-Plane. I think once I get this video done, I'm sure that my compadre over there in New Zealand, Pikatanga, will be all over wanting to help me. He's been instrumental in getting, he's done all the ZHSI work. He took, what's the guy's name that had ZHSI? Andres. And Pikatanga, with his permission, has been instrumental in maintaining CHSI. So it's all the glass screens for Zibo mod. He also has done, Pikatanga has done all the coding for Flight Deck Solutions to XP in X-Plane for all my hardware to work. Talk to him on a regular basis. Otherwise, I'd be flying P3D right now with SimAvionics, which worked. And don't get me wrong, not complaining, just that I'm moving to, I've been in X-Plane for a couple of years now, and everybody asks me if I'm going to 2020, Microsoft 2020. I've been through more flight sim software than most people are allowed to be. Starting with, what was the first one I had? 84 was ProLogic, SubLogic, SubLogic, flying 7 Cessnas out of Megas Field with stick figures. Had every sim in the world. And X-Plane is just the latest one. Would I go to 2020? I see some advantages and some disadvantages. The big disadvantage now is 2020 doesn't allow network screening. I need multiple screens, multiple computers to get the visual effects on the outside. 2020 doesn't allow that, moving that data around. I know it's really high on their list of things to do. There I am twice. Anyway, I know it's really high on their list of things to do. So the multiple screens networking is one issue. The other is my hardware isn't coded for 2020. That is also, there's people a lot smarter than me that like to think about that. So, and then there's P3D, the newest version with it. I'm not flying that now, but I have. That's where I started at with this hardware. So, answers that question that nobody just asked. I'm going to continue on with this afternoon after crew services tells me it's dinner time, and I'm going to call this a wrap on this video. And I want to thank you for being here. I'll be publishing this here in just a few minutes. I can't even see the screen over there. I've lost my mouse. I'm losing my brain. There it is. Let me see if I can stop this. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you later. Let's see.